Hello and welcome to Melbourne Bloom Project. I'm with Chloe today from Just Peachy Events in Bournemouth in the UK. How are you going?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Let's get into it. Why balloons? Why did you start a balloon business?
Um, I've always been a massive Instagrammer since it very first started. I'm always been interested in visual stuff, and I think this stuff just kept creeping into my feed probably about 5 years ago. Of all these balloon, it was mainly like UK. I feel like is light years behind Australia and America, and these guys were doing it way before us. I kept seeing this stuff, and it's so cool. And at that time as well, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, at home parties were getting bigger. COVID obviously escalated that even further, I think. But I have children of my own. I was trying to do parties and I wanted them to look epic and be really visual because I am just that type of person. Never had anyone to make it how I wanted it without that cheesy factor. There was loads of cheesy stuff available. It was never that really cool aesthetics, which I'm into. So I just tried to do it myself. And then it kind of just blossomed from there, really. And then kind of COVID hit, and I dabbled. I started an Instagram page, and I did a couple of my own balloon jobs, just Amazon kits, nothing fancy. But I remember the first one that I did, and it was a pure white one, and I put loads of eucalyptus in it, and I just couldn't stop staring at it. And I was like, I'm obsessed. Like, I just love this idea of putting this beautiful piece of, and it was just modern and it was fresh, it was just different, and everyone that came around my house were like, wow, that's really cool. And I was like, I'm doing this, I'm going to do this. So yeah, I did massively start as a side hustle. um and I'm trying to think how it's like, yeah, so basically there was a school mum who knew I had the page going, and the page was just my own stuff, and she said, oh, you can do balloons, can't you? And I think because it was COVID, or we were coming out of that really strict lockdown in June 2020, she was like, oh, okay, can you do a job for my friend? She's turning 40. And I panicked and I was like, oh my God, got all this stuff together, probably didn't even make anything on it. And then it kind of just went from there. And then I had another, as soon as I posted it, I had another client, and then it just kind of rolled really quickly. I didn't even need to push it. I was quite lucky.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, it's funny what you said about Australia being like light years ahead of the UK. I have often
Yeah.
thought I wish I was in the UK when I started doing this, um, because I reckon there was more of an opportunity just for whatever reason. So it's interesting you
Yeah.
have noticed that as well. Do you follow a lot of Australian pages, or is that it just happened to be?
100%. Yeah, yeah. 100%. I just think that they're just more, I think possibly that their audiences, their clients are probably just more open to it as well. I don't know, like in England, I still find it harder probably to find. I mean, I'm lucky in where I live. If you know Bournemouth, it is a really affluent area. Um, and a lot of my clients have bigger budgets, and it is very much demographic where you live. But I do feel like even with some of my higher value clients, they see the value in it, but I still, when I see the comparison as to what people in America and Australia charge in comparison to what we're able to charge over here, realistically, it's light years difference, I think.
Is it
But
really?
I don't. Yeah, I do think so. Yeah, 100%. I think there's big differences, but maybe that's all economics and what they
No,
earn and things like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's not, I mean,
it makes sense. Australia's quite a
yeah,
high, can't remember the word. They pay well, so people have more disposable income. Not at the moment
yes,
because of the economic stuff,
yeah,
but generally. And there's a lot of different nationalities here. There is in the UK, but in Melbourne, it's like a major city, and there's a lot of nationalities, and big family parties are a thing, and they go all out for them.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
No, I get that. But I I feel like I coined the higher value or high net worth market, because that's what I kind of used to do with my last job. I was an insurance broker, and I used to do high net worth insurance, which is basically just private insurance for very wealthy people. So I was used to putting together proposals and quotations for people that had more money, which essentially has helped me understand more to do with things like their spending habits, what they value, and I didn't feel intimidated, I suppose, as much as someone that maybe didn't do what I do previously. I think it's just given me a bit of a head start, a bit of a stepping stone, and a confidence, I suppose, to put out what I feel is the relevant price. I mean, I know I do get girls actually asking me about pricing. I had one girl in particular, she sent me some pictures of what she charged for a wedding, and I was astonished. And she couldn't believe what I would have charged for it. I told her what I would charge for it, and she told me and I was like, wow, you're basically giving it away. And I still feel like that's a big problem here as well. I feel like, well, I think it's a problem in the whole industry. I don't think it's a necessarily a problem in the UK. I do see a lot of people, especially in Australia. There's a lady who I follow who I know, it's a big on her agenda, and she hates undercutting, going for cheaper products. Do you see what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I told my mates when I come back to the UK, like, and they chat, they're like, how much you charge for that? And they can't believe sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not, like you said earlier, I'm not my own customer. I'd never spend 700 quid on a balloon display, but that's because I don't have that disposable income, whereas I know that my higher value clients or my high net worth clients, they do, and that's not a problem. They just like nice things, and that's great, and I'm here to cater for that. So
no, that's you know your market, and you went for it.
Yeah.
Better than being a one size fits all, because you can't do that. I tried. That's a bit where I didn't grow fast, because I tried to please everyone. You looks like you got your ideal client. I mean, went for them.
Definitely, there's an element of that, and obviously, I think when I started, I tried to grow my book of business, and I don't think I've ever done a freebie, or actually, no, I lie. I've done one, and it was for an influencer. It was like a mummy influencer, and I really liked what she did and stuff, and I was expecting a lot of traction. And I got a few followers off it, but they're not what I then very quickly understood was that these people weren't my clients. They were mummies that were following this influencer that lived 400 miles away from me, so it was completely pointless. So I said, I'm not doing that again. I think what I may do sometimes, or I have done in the past, is to show off other products or to show off my skill set, is to make a display much bigger. If I know I'm going to get some really good photos for all my socials. So I'll make, I'll sort of almost double it. And that kind of works. But yeah, it's all about your area and making sure that people know who you are, I think. I feel like I've got a bit of age on my side as well, which is why it's always worked for me. So I've been around this town for a long time. I used to be a bar manager years ago. I'm at 41. So I feel like I've got a bit more confidence, and I've got a mindset now that if it didn't work, at least I tried.
Yeah.
Whereas probably 10, 15 years ago, I would never have thought like that at all. I would have been way too shy, probably, maybe, I don't know. But now I just feel like, fuck it.
Yeah, I thought it was the be all and end all in my life sort of 3 years ago, but now it's slowed down. It's like, yeah, got other things to worry about.
Do you slow down in winter then? Does it get cold there in winter? I still feel like it doesn't.
Melbourne does.
Does it?
I actually I just spent winter in the UK actually. So I'm less cold than I ordinarily would be for a Melbourne winter. It's still a little bit
Right.
chilly, but like it's nothing. It's not like you need gloves and you're not defrosting your windscreen. So it's not
Yeah.
as severe, but yeah, it does get cold. No, so I've actually stopped doing balloon displays for the time being, and that's one reason why I'm doing this, to sort of keep learning, keep in touch with the industry, and just share some knowledge with people and help everyone. I stopped because basically, if you get a chance, go back and listen to the first episode I put out. It's basically I had like major anxiety when my son was born, like a year ago, and I couldn't handle like my balloons being out, because I did one at a shopping centre, and I was worried that it would like collapse and burn the shopping centre down.
Yeah.
Completely irrational
That is
stuff,
always a worry.
but it would keep me up at night. So I took a step back and like just I work full time as well. That's another big reason why I work.
That's
full-time.
hard. I did that for a long time. I worked for it was actually July last year I quit my job full time. And I have 2 kids and a husband. It was a lot of pressure on my husband all the time. And I'd be working all week and then I'm working all weekend. So it wasn't fun for anyone. Certainly not me. So yeah, life's much more chill now. But obviously people think I was mad, really, like giving up a job on PAYE where I was earning sort of good money to go and do this. But and like in the current climate anyway. And definitely I've noticed it at the pinch this year. I've not been as busy. But again, I feel like my minimum spend is much higher than it was the previous years, because I just didn't want that burnout feeling, which is what I was getting, where I was packing in 5 jobs a weekend and being really stressed about it, rather than just taking on higher quality jobs and doing maybe 1 a weekend or 2. And also we've gone into or have been dabbling a lot more with event planning. So we did a bit last year. They went really, really well. We've done 1 already, and we've got another 2 or 3. We've got another 3 big events. And when I say they're big budget. And that takes up a lot of my time now. So I think a lot of my time now is just spent on, sourcing products and vendors for parties and, doing spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff, which I love, and it's good. And it's, when they come off, I think it's going to be really exciting. And that's kind of, Deca will still very, very much be the core of what I want to do. That the event planning will be essentially what we do. And I'd like to probably take on maybe like 6 events next year, big ones, hopefully, once I've got these ones, buckled in, as it were.
I'll keep an eye out for them. I liked your display at Porsche the other day. I was a bit jealous of that one. I meant to say, as I've been out in the industry as such, like not doing displays, looking through your page earlier today, I was like, it made me want to get back out there. Some of your displays are so good. I was like, I want to start doing that again.
Yeah, it's a bit like it was. Yeah, that one, it was fun. And when I got the call from Porsche, definitely that was not the colour vibe I was expecting. She had to tell me that they were doing. I was expecting like really, classy chromes, really slick and sort of masculine vibes. But yeah, no, it was really fun. They had a big fiesta party, and obviously it's quite a nice one to deal with, because hopefully that's the thing with corporate. I do like corporate because they tend to come back to you because it's easy and they know you and see if you do a good job and all the rest of it. So yeah, corporate's a fun one to do. I do like those.
They're everyone's favourite jobs for sure. Yeah. So everyone knows the reason I got in touch with Chloe to come on is I saw her reel. So I saw your reel, which you alluded to earlier briefly. It's the one where you said X years ago, I stopped doing this to do a bit more of this, and you're at the beach. And basically saying that you stopped your job as a broker to take on the balloons full time. Yeah, it was very inspiring. You must have got a lot of feedback on that post in particular, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was nice. and sometimes I just like most people, it's just like, right, what am I going to talk about today? What can I what's something interesting I can talk about? And it's really weird. Like when I very first started Just Peachy, I wanted it to be faceless. I didn't want to be in front of a camera. I didn't want to be talking to anyone. Mainly because I always wanted Just Peachy to look bigger than it was, and I still use that sort of language when I'm talking. It's always we, our. I never say me or I've done it. It's always we've had a, and essentially it is me. I do have a team of girls, but yeah, and then you realise quite quickly when you sort of get down that Instagram rabbit hole that actually having your face out there actually really helps and makes you more trustworthy. So I started using, and it got more traction and people started to know me and etc. And then I kind of I go through phases with it. Sort of I withdraw a little bit, and then as my followers grew, I find it harder and harder to go on now. And then I end up this is on my stories if I've got something to say. And I feel like I'm just talking for the sake of it to get algorithms up. And I'm like, I don't know if I could be bothered with this. But yeah, to start with, I actually wanted it to be faceless.
Yep, I agree. Exactly this. I'm in the same boat. I think we all are. Like, it's just it's like a necessary evil. You have to show your face and be on Instagram, and it's not something you really want to do.
For some people, it really works with. So one of my girls I speak to all the time, Ellen, it really works for her, but she went down that education route, which again really works with some people. I dabbled with it, and I did some one-to-one training with some people. Well, I found loads of problems with that in itself anyway. One was a completely new starter and things like that. I kind of wasn't prepared for what came. And I don't think it's really, I don't mind it, but it's not what I love. It's not what I love doing. So and I just have that ethos now, but if you don't love it, don't bother because your heart's not in it. So yeah.
That's the best way to be. I've flirted with the teaching stuff. So when COVID first hit, I've been doing it a few years. Don't think I was really in the position to be teaching at that stage. But yeah, I flirted with it. I did a little mini online course that 5 or 6 people bought. But then I took it down because I got a bit of the old imposter syndrome on it. I was like, didn't feel like.
Yeah, totally. I still have that now though. I still, feel I'm just, there's that horrible thing, you just compare yourself all the time. And I think everyone does it no matter what, it doesn't, even if it's just personal Instagrams, and you're always going to compare yourself to other people, aren't you? But I think there's always that horrible devil on the shoulder problem. But I knew where I wanted to be. We are getting there. And, I think as long as you're always developing at whatever rate, then, you're doing good, you're doing something right, as long as you're not staying stale. And I think with Instagram, because it's such an Instagram type of business, I think as long as you're being very current on it, I suppose, and using it to its, what's the right word, using it to its full potential, which I was and am, then it will work for you. It's as simple as that. And then you can, I speak to girls all the time and they're like, oh God, absolutely hate the socials bit though, don't you? And I'm like, no, I fucking love it. Actually, I really like it. I like that creative side. I like making funky stories with a bit of music and everything. And I like making my page appealing. I want people to look at it. You've got to make it stand out. It's a massive part of what you do. Otherwise, when you see people have these massive bios, and sometimes it can be a bit negative, I don't know, no cash, all this kind of stuff. It looks really like no DMs with these big red X's and stuff. I'm like, it just looks so negative. Do you know what I mean though?
Yeah. I'm too
You know,
important to
like
reply to your DM. Fuck off.
you yeah, you've got to be positive. You know, we're a party business, so you know, you're there for, you know, there's a woman who's just got engaged and she's pumped and she's really happy, and then she'll look at your page and it's really neggy, and yeah, no. So that bit I really love, and I think that's kind of why it worked well for me. I say that, but like my Instagram's on a bit of a in algorithm lull at the moment. But I know that's this time of year, it can be a bit weird for me anyway. And I've noticed that it's usually sort of late August, September, it really picks up again and goes nuts for a couple of months, and then slows down again in December. I don't know why. So I've all the really good reels that I put out. But what actually, I do think I know why. I think it's because the summer is always so packed out. So you're just constantly posting. And then obviously the algorithms love that. So by the time you get to sort of early September, you're at, you know, it's going nuts for you, which is great. So I've got to the stage where I don't panic too much about it now. I just let it roll.
So what do you think, because you've got a good Instagram following, what do you think is like the number one reason? Is it what you've done on the app, or is it just the quality of the work shines through and does it for you? Or is it a mixture?
Obviously, it's got to be a bit of a mixture, isn't it? But I think now, if I don't get the right photos from an event, so the venue's too dark, I've got a window behind my stuff, I don't bother posting it. And that's gutting sometimes if the photos are just so bad that you can't post, and then it's annoying because you've got to wait for another event to get in. And it's about continual posting, because Instagram want you to be social, and it's about engaging with other people, businesses and clients, you know. So, and I make sure that I do that, because then if they see your name pop up on a like or a comment, and it's not to say that when I am liking or commenting on these things that they're superficial and there's nothing to it. I am a bit like that anyway, and I love an emoji. But yeah, it's really good for business and people will remember you more. So yeah, that kind of worked for me. But also I like I was saying earlier though, I love creating stories. I love the real process, and I like making catchy ones. I'm really into music and like putting it all together with the music and stuff like that. I actually kind of thought about doing social media management, but I think that's just a whole other ball game. But maybe later, maybe in about 5 years, when I've had enough of this.
It's funny you say that. Like, I enjoy making reels and little videos. Like, it is enjoyable, but I don't know if it's my ego, my whatever, can't handle like the lack of views that it gets. So it's like that takes some of the enjoyment out of it. But it's a good point. Like, if you enjoy
annoying.
do that. Like,
yeah, it's really annoying when you think you put something good out and it's flopping. I think my audience just isn't, my reach just isn't going very far at the moment. But like I say, and I'm not going to panic about it. I think it's just the time of year. I'm not panicking about my quality of work or anything. And Instagram changes all the time. It's a real fickle creature to keep up with. But following social media coaches really helps, because they keep you up to date with the algorithm changes. So last year, when some of my reels were going off, reels were the big thing. You had to post reels. Reels got more likes and shares and views than anything else, and pictures were way down. Whereas the start of this year, they changed all of that, and carousels and single images were getting pushed more so because everyone's complaining about the real situation. So keeping up with social media gurus on Instagram is always, it's a good tip.
Yeah,
always tell people to do that. Yeah, keeps you in the know of what's going on. Yeah,
I think your tip on, if you don't get good photos, even though it's heartbreaking, just don't post them, because I used to post them regardless, and I probably posted some pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I've done gigs before in like I don't know if you have them over there, but like working man clubs and stuff like
No, but some
over
things you
here.
really
And it's not, and it's not to be snobby, you know, it's just that there was a horrible tobacco smelling swirly 70s carpet and red curtains going on, and bad leather sofas. It's not the one, is it? That's not going to get you, you're looking for plain, as good a background for your backdrop as possible and the best lighting ideal. And I've said this before, and I did a chat for somebody. If I tend to survey a lot of properties before so when I know the job's coming on, I'll go and take a look at the property really quickly, meet the client. If I think that my backdrop, that my display is going to, if it's a really aesthetically pretty house, beautiful, I will actually end up putting a bit more in, making it a bit more bougie, because I know it's going to get more traction. The cost of that is nothing to me, really. It's say another 2 meters worth of balloons or whatever it may be, because I know I'm going to get better traction, because it's a beautiful house with nice flooring and good lighting and all the other things.
I think that's excellent advice. Yeah, I wish I'd have considered that in the past. Like, if I know that I'm onto a winner of the background, then just a little bit bigger.
Because that's what everyone sees as well. You know, they don't just see your display, they see the whole package. They'll see that it's a beautiful white marble floor, or it's next to a gorgeous swimming pool, and it's a blue sky and stuff. It's the whole aesthetics that people are hitting likes for. It isn't, sadly, just your beautiful balloon display. So those things all help. Whether they actually help you get clients or not, I don't know, but it just makes the page prettier. You gain more followers, which in turn can help boost your profile. And I think your trustworthiness and overall sort of credit, if you like.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. When I was looking for your page earlier, there was a video in the reel. It was in a nice house with glass walls looking over the ocean. I think it was something like Rob. The display was for a guy called Rob. I remember seeing the Rob on the logo.
Oh, yeah.
It was a nice blue sky and in a beautiful house. So yeah.
It's a stunning house. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favourites. A really good clients of mine.
Yeah, I bet. So it's funny. Another thing that's made me think of on the Instagram thing, when I've opened it in the last few days, because we've been communicating a lot, organising the time. So every time I open Instagram, obviously it goes straight to the main feed. And now I'm seeing time lapse on my feed instead of photos and reels. Are you seeing the same? Everyone's doing time lapses of them setting up. Have you been doing a bit of that as well?
I have done one before. I always think though, why does anyone want to see my backside? Like, they're not my favorite thing to do. And if I'm really honest, like when I see someone, I love watching them, don't get me wrong. And when I see some people do them, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. But I tell you what, when I get on a job, the last thing I'm thinking about doing is springing up a tripod and getting the angles right. I'm like, I just want to get in and I want to get on with it. I'm actually a little bit cracked for getting content, but now I've got a couple of girls that work with me on jobs. I just tell them to like rush off and start filming stuff. I think it's getting harder to come up with fresher ideas for things like transitions and for real ideas as such. I feel like I'm in a bit of a hole with that at the moment.
Where does most of your custom come from?
Mine, mainly Instagram and web inquiries, a bit of both, but also word of mouth. I think that's my strongest, and that's the one I love actually. When I get a word of mouth, because it's almost like a guaranteed sale. Because they've spoken to their friend, they understand the pricing, and they've either seen my work for themselves, so they know the quality that they're getting, or they know they know what to kind of expect. So I love the word of mouth. I think that's the strongest form of lead that you can get, really. Yeah, but yeah, Instagram as well. And I did go through this kind of, I'd rather just have it all through my web and just get the web inquiries, because through my web inquiries online I have more questions, because a lot of people just go, hi, how much is this, or can you do this? Whereas, as you probably know already, you obviously need a postcode. You need to know what something looks like, like loads of stuff for you to be able to work out how much it's going to cost. So yeah, I do prefer people to go through the web, but I'm never going to turn someone down, really, if they go through my DMs. It's not a biggie for me.